Thanks for listening to Eat Your Content. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting the podcast through my merch store on TeePublic. Get great quality items like t-shirts, hats, mugs, and more, all sporting the vibrant Eat Your Content logo. Go to teepublic.com/user/eatyourcontent for more great items, and thanks for your support.
Do you remember yours?
My first dish?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was awful.
Wait, the experience or the dish?
The dish was awful. Because now my desserts are so just scaled back. And I think this dish had 12 elements on it.
Mine was cornbread ice cream. Working for this guy. Working for this guy. He ran me through the gamut. How many different ways can you get ice cream to taste like cornbread? Turns out, months and months of different ways. It's why I became obsessed with ice cream.
I never knew that. That's cool.
Things you learn when you dine out with your spouse, right?
You know what? It's just really nice.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast, your home for all things food and pop culture. I am your host, Rich Herrera. Just a reminder to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Just a couple of program reminders. We are finishing up The Bear. We're on the back half of The Bear Season 3, so if you missed any of the other recaps up till now, they are on your favorite podcast player of choice. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to go check those out. Glad to introduce my co-host for this week as we continue down the Bear Season 3 episodes, host of the What Was That Like podcast, my friend Scott Johnson. Welcome back, Scott.
Hey, Rich. Great to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you. Had a good time. So we are on the back half of The Bear. We have these episodes 7 through 10 left to cover. So where are we still on, or are you still on the Bear train? Are we still how is your overall, just overarching feeling of this particular season in general? Before we get specifically into the episodes, how are you feeling about this season?
A little disappointed, honestly. The season 3 didn't quite live up to what I would have expected after watching seasons 1 and 2, but that was a hard thing to live up to. Also, those just knocked it out of the park, especially a couple of the episodes. And so I don't know. We'll see what happens season 4. Hopefully it's better, but
yeah. I'm feeling the same way. Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. Season 3, I mean, the expectations were so impossibly high, I think, coming into season 3, especially after having almost flawless seasons 1 and 2. You come into season 3, expectations are impossibly high. I don't know how they were able to keep that up. However, with that being said, I offer a little bit of grace that I wasn't expecting season 3 to be as stellar, but I found myself a little bored on these. And as we talk about some specific scenes and things coming up for these next couple of episodes, I just kind of found myself second screening it, just on my phone and watching, doing something else, multitasking, and kind of almost having it in the background. And I did not do that with the first 2 seasons of The Bear. I mean,
I didn't either.
The whole season of 1 and 2, I put my phone down and I gave it my undivided attention. But especially the back half of this season of season 3, I was kind of like, oh man, where are we going? Overall, it seems sort of directionless and motivationless, which, when you kind of think about it from a 30,000 foot artistic view, a lot of the characters on season 3 are somewhat directionless. They don't know what they want to do next. They don't know where to go. You have Sid kind of on the fence about where she wants to go. Is she going to take this new job at Adam Shapiro's new restaurant after Ever closes, or is she going to stick with Carmy? Carmy doesn't know what to do with Claire, and will they, won't they? Will he apologize? Will he call her? Richie doesn't know what he's going to do with Carmy, and everybody's everybody's kind of directionless and all that. But I kind of wish the show wasn't that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They could have added a few more elements. I don't know what, but yeah, it feels like all the characters are just kind of treading water. Like here we are, we're not going anywhere, but we're still here. Yeah. So yeah, I got the same feeling though.
But don't
Yeah.
forget about us. We're still here. Now, with that said,
Mhm.
season 2 got nominated for like 23 Emmys or something like
Yeah.
that. So,
And well
and
deserved.
and well deserved, and rightfully so. I mean, just two standout episodes in season 2 with Fishes and Forks. And I don't have that in this season. There's no like standout episodes that I could put my finger on and go, that is the Bear. Now, Napkins comes close. Uh, but other than that, there's not really any kind of standout, like, signature episodes for this season.
Mhm.
Are you experiencing the same thing, or is there an episode too that stands out in season 3?
I had two, and we'll be talking about one of them tonight, Ice Chips.
Yeah,
Yeah, I loved that one. And same thing with Napkins, with Tina's backstory. I loved that one too. Those are the two
yeah.
big ones for me. And other than that, I would struggle to try to remember what else happened this season, you know?
That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. So let's get right to it. Let's talk about episodes 7 and 8. We have
Mhm.
Legacy, episode 7, and Ice Chips, episode 8. Episode 7 was written by Chris Storr, directed by Joanna Callow, the showrunners of this entire season. Episode 8, Ice Chips, was directed by Chris Storr and also written by Joanna Callow on this one. So talking about Legacy, one thing that I did like at the beginning of Legacy, where they were playing kind of that montage, and we see kind of Sid's part of that, and the part where her voiceover says, "I know who you are. You are a piece of shit," which is a remarkable reworking of seasons 1, episode 1, and season 1, episode 7, where she comes onto the scene in episode 1, goes, "I know who you are.
Mhm.
You're the best chef in Chicago." And then in
Right.
episode 7 of season 1, where he blows up during the chaos of the pre-order function, and she
Mhm.
tells him, "You are a piece of shit." I was like, wow, that's powerful. That very first line is like, "I know who you are. You are a piece of shit." It's almost like this whole kind of transition of Sid's and Carmi's relationship, and it kind of made me think like, don't meet your heroes, right? And Sid was kind of meeting her
Mm.
heroes.
It's
What
no
did
wonder
you?
she's hesitant to sign that document, because
Yeah,
they're, they're going to be locked in at that point.
yeah, like they are locked in, right? So,
Hmm.
did you find anything interesting about that opening montage, or what kind of scene stood out to you in this particular episode?
It's to me, it seemed a little bit like they were kind of daydreaming
Hmm.
with Carmi and Richie and Sid, thinking about all the stuff that has led up to where they are now. And now that I'm saying that out loud, it seems like the show kind of overdoes that kind of dream sequence with all the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of the things that I don't really like about it. I did like it the first time they did it. I don't remember what episode it was, but they do that a lot.
Especially this
And
season, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, that's what I got from it, from that opening montage. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, talking about the flashbacks, season 3 really, at some point, turned into an art house film. 'Cause
Yes.
season 1 was, or I mean, episode 1 of this season was perfect. I thought it was great. But there are a lot of these artsy flashback shots that you're talking about, these kind of dream
Hmm.
sequences, and I'm like, somebody's like feeling themselves in the in the
Yeah.
direction here. There,
Yeah.
it overall kind of feels a little self-indulgent. But yeah, at this point, I'm like, did this become an art house film? Like, what am I watching here? I mean,
Hmm.
beautiful shots, sure, but did they serve any kind of real purpose? I mean,
Yes.
I don't know. I don't
And I
know.
agree with the phrase self-indulgent. It's like they looked at season 1 and 2 and all of the everything that everybody was talking about, and they think, the writers are thinking, man, they just love us. Let's show them what we can do. And
Yeah, yeah.
it didn't really always serve a valid purpose, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. It's like they like this, let's give them more of that. And I think they kind of
Hmm.
went a little bit overboard on that. It was kind of like, I don't know if you've watched any of the Marvel movies, but like with the Thor movies, the four of them, Thor Ragnarok had a lot of really great comedy in it, and then they went a
Hmm.
little overboard on Thor 4 and it backfired on them.
Right.
It's kind of this. It's like they told, we said, oh man, we loved this and we loved that, and they gave us more of it. And it was just too much.
I think they heard people say, "Oh man, the facts, we love them."
Yeah,
Okay, here, let's back the truck up and dump all the facts stuff on you.
I know. Yeah, facts were funny. Let's have more facts. No. Too
Yeah.
much fact now. Too much fact.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the scene where Sid is talking to Chef Adam Shapiro about the job, right? So she's presented with a job offer, and it sounds great. $80K a year, benefits, creative control. You compare that to what she's experiencing with Carmi at the moment, cutting her off, not really taking her ideas, or taking her ideas and completely changing them. And just his demeanor in the kitchen, just kind of this abusive demeanor in the kitchen. I'm looking at Sid. I'm like, what are you doing? Take it. Like, take the job. What's there to think about? Like, I get you feel some sort of emotional connection to Carmi at this point. You've been through the trenches with this guy from season 1 and 2. And I don't know, do you feel like she feels like she owes something to Carmi of herself? Like, why would you take this job offer if you were Sid?
I absolutely would. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if he has any integrity, he would not fault her for taking that job offer. He would be sad.
Right.
He'd be disappointed to lose her. But man, I loved the fact that she indicated that, yes, she's interested. I mean, it took her by surprise when he gave her that offer.
Yeah.
But, it's like he said, did I say something wrong? And she says, no, actually the opposite. So that tells me, oh man, she really is considering it. And yeah, I'm with you. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Take it.
And we come to find out later that her contract with the Bear isn't as good, right? I mean,
Right.
so we found out it's a little less money, and benefits aren't going to kick in right away, and Adam Shapiro's offering to me a much better deal, and I'm like, Sid, take this job. What's there to even think about?
Right. Not
if you
just
don't,
the money.
yeah,
It's not just the money, but the environment. He seems like he'd be a nice guy to work with. Now, have we seen scenes with him running the kitchen? I don't know.
There was one famous scene in Forks in season 2 where the smudge monologue, where he comes in, they're having their pre-service meeting at Ever. And this is where Richie is staging at Ever for the week.
That.
And he's like, if I have to talk about that smudge one more time, we lost 40 seconds on that smudge. And then he looks at Garrett and goes, and fuck you, Garrett. Yes, Chef, fuck you. Or something like that. So Adam Shapiro does have kind of that type of behavior too. That's the only time we've seen it. So I don't know how he's like, throughout the entire series, but he's got that one moment where he kind of lost it over smudge, and that's kind of the running gag actually through kind of the later episodes of this season. So, but overall, I'm like, you got to look out for yourself, Sid, and your mental health. No job is worth your mental health. My wife's a nurse practitioner. She's gone into some real toxic environments at jobs, and is coming home. It's like, I can't take this anymore. I'm like, look, quit the job. I said, we'll find something else. No job is worth your mental health. If you're between jobs, look, it's going to be a struggle for a minute, but we'll figure it out. You can't be going into work being afraid of what you're going to encounter. Right. And, on your podcast, you talk a lot with people that have gone through some significant situations, and mental health is very, very important. So, if I'm advising Sid, I'm saying, take the job, roll credits, take the job, end of season. Right. But, we see her kind of struggling through it. So we'll kind of see what happens. Another scene I thought was interesting was, I mentioned in our last pod about where's the Al-Anon meetings. Like we kind of stopped doing that, and we come across an Al-Anon meeting where it's not him talking, but he's listening, and they talk about, saying I'm sorry and how important that is. And the longer you don't say it, the harder it becomes to say it. So I thought that was a really deep and meaningful kind of monologue, which is then immediately undercut by a Fact Brothers scene. Did you find that kind of disjointed?
It was a little abrupt. Yeah. Because the speaker's talking about apologizing, and I don't think Carmi even says anything in that scene.
Right.
But he's just, you can tell he's in his head. He's being very introspective and thinking how does this, how this applies to me in my situation. And then we go to the facts fixing a light bulb, and Uncle Gary comes in with more of the haunting nonsense, and I'm just tired of that.
Yeah. And I'm no editor, but I went back and watched it on my second rewatch of that episode. And
Mhm.
after the Al-Anon scene, I fast forwarded through the FAQ episode and go right into Sid and Adam's meeting, right when they're talking about the job and everything.
Uh-huh.
And you could have cut that whole thing out and it would have been fine. Like I skipped that
Yeah.
entire scene of them fixing a light bulb, and I was like, man, what are we doing? And then at the end of that FAQ scene where he's like, what the fuck? I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
What WTF? What did I just watch? Like, what are
Right.
we? I'm thinking because I heard and read that seasons 4 was greenlit while they were filming season 3. So then they filmed parts of 4 already
Right.
and 3 kind of back to back. And with Ao and Jeremy Allen White and Evans, skyrocketing careers. Chris Storer,
Hmm.
the writer, and Joan Callow, the showrunner, they weren't going to have those 3 for very long. So I'm sure they were just like scrambling to try to get something together. I feel like season 3 is a lot of filler. And what I witnessed in just this cutting of a scene from kind of serious to the facts, then serious again, is that filler that I'm witnessing. I'm like,
Hmm.
it's just a filler episode. I don't understand why they had to
Yeah.
have that in there.
And this episode was 28 minutes. They could have cut out that minute and a half of however long that scene was, and it wouldn't have made any difference. But I'm wondering, since they filmed a lot of season 4 concurrently with season 3, if they're going to be able to react to some of the negative stuff that was said about season 3, because they're making them at the same time, or at
Yeah.
least some of the episodes are at the same time. Um, so I wonder now if they're thinking, man, we filmed all those season 4 facts scenes. Should we cut those now? Or what do we do?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the way season 3 went, I don't know what to expect from season 4 now, and I'm kind of scared, but we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. Uh, so the scene the name of the episode is Legacy. So we get to a scene where they actually talk a little bit about legacy, and we get to
Hmm.
the scene where Carm and Marcus talk about that. Carm's description of a chef family tree was really interesting, and that is true. The restaurant industry is a very small world, and a lot of chefs move from place to place, and they always take something from where they work to where they want to start, and it does kind of become this family tree. So I thought that was a really interesting
Hmm.
conversation. But the best part was when Marcus asked um, Sid about what's her legacy, and she's like, "Look, I'm just trying to make it through Wednesday." And
Yeah.
it was kind of a throwaway line, but it really hit me deep because there was a time when I was late getting my bachelor's as an adult, and I didn't know, I was in my first class and our professor's like, getting out these index cards, like, write down what you want to do in like 5 years, and I'm just like tapping on it. I don't know. I just want to just make it through the day. It was a really tough point
Hmm.
in my life. And I was like, I just want to make it through the day. I just want to graduate. And all these other people's like, oh, I want to be CEO or whatever, these grandiose ideas. And I'm like, I just want to make it through Wednesday. So
Hmm.
I really felt Sid in that moment. And she was so relatable in just that little throwaway line. The legacy conversations, was there anything there that kind of stood out to you at all?
Well, to me, it seemed like, Carm, one of the things Carm said was, for something to be good, you have to filter out the bad.
Yeah.
And Marcus, was his legacy is honest work. I want to be fun to be around, which that describes him exactly. I mean, you'd want to spend a day with him,
Yeah.
or have a beer anyway. He'd be the great guy, and also an excellent emergency contact.
I thought that was
So
pretty funny.
so yeah, so they're getting into, really serious stuff. And then Sid just says, I just want to get through Wednesday. It seemed to me like she was not wanting to participate in the deeper part of that conversation, because
Yeah.
she's not sure what her legacy is going to be. She's still
Right.
undecided what she's going to do.
Right.
And that non-committal line seemed like it got her off the hook. She answered the question, but didn't really tell him anything.
Yeah, Carmi's response to this was interesting. He said, if I were to leave something behind, I would want it to be panicless, anxiety free. And in order to do that, I would have to be square with everything and everybody. To make it good, I would have to filter out the bad, what you were talking about earlier. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, I thought if this was episode 1 of this season and that was said, or they had this conversation, I think it would have been a better launching point for this season. It would have given us something to a North Star to go towards. Like his
Mhm.
legacy is he wants it to be panic free and anxiety free, because it is absolutely not that right now.
He's nowhere near that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's nowhere near that. And he knows he has to be square with everybody. He's gonna have to make some apologies. And that Al-Anon meeting drove it home for him, that says, the longer you don't say I'm sorry, the harder it is to pull those words out of your heart.
Mhm.
And he's just not doing it. So if we had that earlier in the season and we could see his progression of becoming a better person. What's weird about Carmi is like when he doesn't have the chef coat on, great guy, great guy. He's supportive of people.
Mhm.
He's a good person to be around. But the moment that chef coat comes on, it's like he flips a switch and he becomes this like tyrant almost. And so we're not seeing him fulfill that legacy that he himself wants to lead. But I feel like it
Mhm.
came too late in the season for me to care now, because
Right.
we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it happening. But I don't know. What did you
Maybe
think?
that's what we'll see in next season. Hopefully
Yeah.
hopefully all of the characters kind of get developed some more, and that there's more plot lines rather than just people being in a scene together and talking and not advancing the story at all.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So the next scene I love is when Ibra finally gets some help at the sandwich window, and
I love that one. Yeah.
this is a great scene. Very opposite of the fax scene where they use the fax to break up kind of two semi-serious scenes. This and did it poorly. This scene did it correctly, and it's all in the same episode, and
Hmm.
which is weird to me. But Chucky and Chi Chi, great guys. I want to see more of them in
Hmm.
future episodes, I hope. Uh, but that through line of legacy kind of continues through here, because they show a burnt picture of Mikey, and Chucky's like, we got your back, my guy, and this is kind
Hmm.
of Mikey's legacy of the restaurant, which is the sandwich window. And they talk about this system, and you see kind of those flashes of what the bear used to be when it was the beef, and it was a really fun scene to watch them work through that. And Eber's smiling and is finally kind of in his groove now that he's not overwhelmed. Um,
Hmm.
good breakup of this episode, I thought. Your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love this because Ibra was so stressed. He didn't know what he was going to do. But then he got the okay to bring these two guys in, and with their background, I felt like we were kind of hearing some of the inside past jokes, like no silverware,
Yeah,
no mayo.
yeah,
Why no mayo? And then they went into that whole thing, and it's obviously there's a big history with everything they do, and
yeah.
they had that process down to a T. I mean, they
Hmm.
couldn't have been more efficient. And just to see Ibra go from being so stressed to being so happy, I found that very gratifying.
Yeah. So more Chi Chi, more Chucky, more
Hmm.
Ibra, and the sandwich window, and maybe less facts. I think that would be really fun. So then we move to Sweeps talking about his baseball career
Hmm.
with Teddy Fack, and you kind of see on his face like he was disappointed that his baseball career ended the way it did, and now he's working at a restaurant, and you kind of see the disappointment in his face. But it was kind of good to see Sweeps kind of get his scene. We don't see a lot of him in the show, so it
Hmm.
was good to kind of get him in there. Anything to add in this particular
I I
area?
think I think it was encouraging to him. I don't know if he knew that Teddy knew who he was ahead of time.
Right.
Like, like he said, "Yeah, I followed you. I know who you were." And that's kind of, that feels good. He had some accomplishments in the past. He's not where he wants to be right now, or not where he expected to be, but I thought that was kind of a positive in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we talk about, or we see that Sugar is going to head out and get some more Seafolds napkins for the restaurant. And she meets Sid, and then she looks at her and goes, "Sign the agreement, Sid." And I thought, ooh, that was a little threatening. Did you find that kind of ominous?
Yes, she was a little bit. That was very direct. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all a little frustrated with her. Like, they can't really move forward from a legal standpoint until Sid, and obviously she's the last one. She's the only one that hasn't signed it, but we know why. No.
Yeah. And then there's this weird scene with the facts again, and talking about this haunting with these random people. I don't know what that was there for. Again, it was like these random people. They're sitting outside at the sandwich like tables, talking about haunting, and one guy's like, "What are you talking about? He's alive. He's not dead. What are you talking about haunting?" So that's not what we're talking about, man. I'm like, can we lay off of this for a little bit?
Yeah, this isn't even a concept that I had ever heard of. I mean, it sounds like what they're talking about as far as haunting. It's like similar to kind of like stalking, but like intentionally making someone's life miserable with some minor inconveniences or something. And
right.
I think they think it's a lot funnier than it really is.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this before? Like,
no, I've never heard of this concept. I mean, when him and the other, when John Cena's character, the Sammy Fack, that was a little bit funny. And then you got the concept, but now they're running it into the ground, right? They're running this concept into the ground. Like, I'm sick of hearing about it. But no, I've never heard of this before. It is a humorous concept, but when you've heard the joke 15 times, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, so it's worn out.
It's worn out.
Mm-hmm.
So episode 7 ends with Nat going into labor, and then we're right into episode 8 with Ice Chips. And I thought for a second she was going to have that baby on the side of the highway. I was like, oh my gosh, is this where we're going? And she's trying to call everybody, and nobody's answering the phone because it's service. Service is starting. Everybody's got their phones in their locker, and finally, the only person that'll pick up the phone is Dee Dee, Donna. Jamie Lee Curtis's character comes back for this episode. This is a classic bottle episode. If you're not familiar with bottle episodes are where they take really just two characters and lock them in a room, and that's the episode. That it's just them two in one area talking, and they're usually the side players. They're not usually the main characters. But yeah, there's a classic bottle episode. And before we started talking about it, you said you really liked this episode. So what were some of the standout things to you that you really enjoyed?
Well, I noticed that when she was in the car, and of course the first person she's going to try to call is Pete, and can't get through to him. She then calls Sydney, then Carmy, then Marcus, then Richie, even Claire.
Yeah.
And all of them, no answer. Why not Tina? She and Tina had just had a conversation about, having the baby, and, how did you feel after you had your kid? It's like a heart to heart that they had, and yet she didn't even try calling her.
Yeah.
But man, when she said, they achieved the effect when she said, "Call mom." And I thought, oh man, how is this going to play out?
Yeah.
Which right then made me look forward to it, because I just love seeing Jamie Lee Curtis on the scene, in a scene playing Donna. And I mean, it started right in the parking lot, with the he, and
yeah.
And you can see how it's going to go. Of course, it wasn't all bad either. That's what I enjoyed too. But man, yeah, Natalie doesn't sugarcoat anything when she's telling Donna what's going on. You're bugging me. Stop doing this. And Donna doesn't like hearing that, but eventually she gets the hint.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There was, I will say about this episode, superbly acted by Jamie Lee Curtis and Abby Elliott.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I think both of them did really, really good, a really great job of conveying a lifetime of emotion between the two of them, of Sugar not feeling seen by her mom, of feeling rejected by her mom, of feeling like she had to take care of her mom because of Donna's mental health issues, and kind of feeling like she had to be the mom of Sugar had to be the mom of the family because the mom wasn't there, couldn't be that for everybody else. So to
Mm-hmm.
watch them kind of talk through those things through the allegory of childbirth
Yeah.
was really fun to watch. I thought it was really interesting to kind of watch a new relationship be birthed out of this. Besides the birth of a new life, it's a birth of a
Mm-hmm.
new relationship between mom and Sugar. I One thing I would say, I feel like they were trying to give us the showrunners are trying to give us the same feelings that Fishes gave us. I really feel like this was kind of a spiritual sequel to the Fishes episode. Um,
Okay.
uh, but it just didn't hit me the same way emotionally that Fishes did. And I think, well, Fishes had more players. There's kind of a lot more going on
Yeah.
than Ice Chips. Um, I don't know if this was the right place in this season for this episode. I don't know. To me, I thought it was superbly acted in a bottle. I think it was a really good episode, but in the context of season 3, I don't know if it fit well within where we were. Personally, I would have liked to have seen it not be a bottle episode, and I would like to have seen Carmi and Richie trying to make it through service and get to the hospital and get to where
Hmm.
Sugar was for her birth. I mean, so I don't know. I'm kind of mixed about this episode. I thought it was good. I'm sure it's going to get nominated next year for some Emmys for the acting. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't know how I feel as it fits in through season 3. I don't know. It was kind of weird for me in that sense. What do you think?
I I just I just delighted in it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've mentioned this before. I love really good, deep conversations,
Hmm.
and these two have such a history. And we see, you mentioned Fishes. In Fishes, Donna was not really a very likable character there.
No.
She was so highly stressed, and her stress was stressing everybody else out at the same time and everything. But in this scene in the hospital, Donna says, "Were you feeling like you didn't want me around?" And Natalie says, "I just didn't want the stuff you bring with you."
Mm,
And Donna's response is, "I'm trying to put that stuff away." So there's a little bit of a redeeming quality in her. She's trying,
Ryan,
but
yeah.
I mean, a lifetime of all that baggage, it's tough to get through. And I got to tell you, when when Natalie says, call Pete again," and Donna says, I already called him. I left a voicemail. I was convinced she did not call him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because Donna wants all of Natalie to herself right there. And this is a
Right.
special moment, giving birth to a baby. But again, we find out she did the right thing too.
Yeah. I thought there were some humorous, at least to me, humorous parts of this where the nurse is talking to Sugar. It's like, so how do we want to do this childbirth? Oh, I want to go natural and no pain medication.
Hmm.
And Donna's had 3 kids, right? So she knows what's coming. And she's like, "Are you sure?" And then Sugar's like, "I know what I'm doing." And why it was funny to me is it reminded me of my sister and my mom when my sister had her first kid, and my mom's trying to offer advice. My sister's like, "No, no, no, I read in this book and I read in that book and I know what I'm doing." And it's like, you
Hmm.
and my mom's like, "I know what I'm doing too. I've had 2 of you." So
Hmm.
and so you kind of forget that your mom is your mom at that point, right? And
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny. She's like, "I'm trying to tell you, if you breathe this way, it's going to be better." No, I'm not going to do that. And then we kind of find out it does, obviously, because she's been there.
Oh, it
Um,
works. Yeah.
yeah, and it works. And I found it really touching too, the stories that she told about each child's birth, as
Hmm.
we're waiting,
Yeah.
and how they affected her and everything. I thought was really good. But again, a great episode. I don't know if it was in the right place of season 3, but a great episode on its own.
Yeah.
Um,
And they did
uh,
the same thing that they done in other previous episodes this season, where so many camera shots were up right in their face
yeah,
for both of them.
yeah,
And I just like that. Natalie is she's so beautiful and real. And again, that conversation just I just loved listening to it. But it also made me think, just from a performance standpoint, as actors, when Abby Elliott, who plays Sugar, first read the script for this episode,
Mhm.
and she saw that she's going to be close up and sharing almost the whole episode with a legend like Jamie
Yeah.
Lee Curtis. I mean,
Yeah.
I wonder if she was excited or intimidated
Yeah.
or something else. I mean, obviously she's had scenes with them before, like in Fishes, but that, there's a lot of other people too. This is just the spotlight is on the two of them the whole time.
Yeah.
But I thought she did amazing.
Oh,
Both
she
of them
held
did.
her. Yeah, she held her own, with
Hmm.
Jamie Lee Curtis, and yeah, because Abby Elliott, I don't know a lot of her work. I think she's a relative newcomer to
I,
kind of big acting roles.
yeah, I heard
Um,
she was on Saturday Night Live, maybe. I might be
yeah,
completely misremembering that, but
I'm not for sure. I know she's Chris Elliott's daughter. Chris Elliott's a big
oh
comedian.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
from David
so
Letterman
yeah, yeah.
originally.
So
Yeah,
so yeah, I thought she did a really great job holding their own. I don't think any one person acted circles around the other. I think they
right,
both did
right.
really, really, really well.
Hmm.
One thing that kind of made me think, are we going to see a Donna situation happening here? Is when Pete did arrive, I thought, oh,
Hmm.
she's skipping out, she's done, she's leaving, and she stuck around. Like
Hmm.
she waited in the waiting room, and then the fax came in, and I thought for sure as she was walking down the hallway of the hospital, I thought for sure she was going to leave, because
Mm.
that would have been the typical Donna move, right? Okay,
Yeah.
all these other people that matter more than me are here, so there's no need for me to be here. Kind of like how she did when the Bear first opened and they invited her to come in, and Pete saw her standing outside the restaurant, but she didn't come in, right? She didn't come into the restaurant. He's like, no, 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 I don't want to ruin the moment. I don't want to mess things up. I want him to have a good night tonight, and I'm just gonna leave. I thought for
Hmm.
sure she was gonna do that again in this episode, so it was really nice to see that she didn't.
Yeah, she didn't completely, but I mean, she knew that her job was done. I mean, after that, all of that conversation they had, she was just drained physically and emotionally, probably. So she was probably maybe a little bit looking forward to just going out and relaxing a little bit, sitting in the
Yeah.
chair until the
Yep.
facts come in. But she was okay with that too. So,
Yeah. Right. All right, so let's just go straight into episodes 9 and 10, and finish this out. So episode 9 is Apologies, and episode 10 is Forever. Episode 9 directed by Chris Storer and written by Alex Russell. Episode 10, Forever, is directed and written by Chris Storer. I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot to say about Apologies, because
hmm.
I mean, we talked earlier about when did The Bear become an art house film, because I see a lot of that in this opening monologue, this Martin Scorsese opening monologue about magic and misdirection. It was all very artful. They throw the cleaning solution on the kitchen counter, all
Hmm.
very scenic, all very eye-catching.
Yeah.
Um, but this was exactly like a filler episode. I think if we skipped 9 and went straight to 10, there's nothing significant in episode 9 that made me, really like this episode at all. This was we talked about
Mm.
second screening. I was second screening through this episode. It was a slog for me to get through, and I hate to say that about the Bear, because I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't. I like the Bear. I'm still gonna like the Bear. They have won a lot of goodwill for me, but a chunk of it got chipped away watching this one, because I didn't know
Hmm.
what this was about. I mean, we're talking about apologies, but you know, Carmi has yet to do any of that in this episode or in this season, and there's I don't know. I wasn't a fan of Apologies. I was actively bored. What did you think? Did you like it? Anything stand out to you?
Um, well, it started out with the breaking down of the boxes and talking about Claire might be haunting
Yeah.
Carmi, and yeah, there was so much in this episode of Carmi being again introspective, and you just seeing a close up of his face where he's thinking. Um, and honestly, I when I first watch each episode, I watch them all twice.
Hmm.
First to watch it just to watch it, and then to watch it and make notes. And um, the first time I watch it, I go to bed and I have my iPad and I watch an hour of Netflix or whatever. In this case, I was watching this episode and I literally fell asleep halfway through it.
Oh no.
I mean, and that's not, can you imagine that happening in season 1?
Right.
I mean, no way.
Absolutely
or
not.
season 2 either one.
No.
And I mean, Cicero's, Harmy's spraying the hose, and Cicero's
Right.
telling him about dreams and carbon dating and nuclear reactors, and it just, yeah, it's like what you said. I think it was just a lot of filler. I did enjoy the conversation with Tiff and Richie, where she was trying to get him to come to the wedding. That seemed very real, and I enjoyed their back and forth. You can kind of tell they were, they're a couple at one time, and they have that chemistry. But all of the stuff with Carmy, just thinking, and you wonder what he's thinking in his head, but you don't really know. He doesn't want to apologize, but he does. And I'm with you. I could have skipped this one completely.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough to watch. A couple of scenes that did stand out to me was when Sid and the computer were in the car. You get the idea that the money situation is serious, but you don't really understand how serious until you hear this conversation between the computer and Uncle Jimmy. And he's like, look, you gotta, I need my money. So Jimmy got his money from the computer. So there's a lot of, don't do business with family is I think one of the lines of life, right? One of the proverbs of life, because it gets weird, and you kind of see that here. And so you kind of get an idea of how serious the money situation is and how deep they're in and how they're not quite making it yet. And then another scene that I liked was when Sid brought a bunch of food over to eat while Sugar's recovering. And, I wrote in my notes, be friends with a chef. I said, be friends with a chef, because they're gonna invite you over to taste test recipes that they're developing for their restaurant or their food truck or whatever they're doing, catering, and they're gonna bring the best stuff to Friendsgiving, right? So if you're listening out there, go find a chef, become a regular at a restaurant, be friends with them, and it's innately wired in chefs to serve, and that's what they do. They're going to always be there to help you out, and you call them up and they're going to, be there. I have some chef friends that have done for me that way. So be friends with chefs is the moral of that story, I think.
That's a good motto. 9. Yeah. I kind of see myself a little bit in Pete in that scene, because I don't cook at all. And, he was saying, should I make this or whatever? And she said, well, it might wake him up. And he thought it was going to be noisy.
Yeah.
Well, which thing should I prepare that's less noisy? Oh, you mean the smell? Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah. And that just made Pete kind of more lovable,
Pete is a lovable guy. And I kind of feel bad for all the crap that Carvey and them give him, because he brought tuna casserole to a fish's dinner once, and they never let him forget about it. And he tries so hard to endear himself to like Carmy and Richie, and they're just like not having it. But yeah, I think Pete's a great supporting character. He's kind of the straight man to everybody's in the restaurant industry, and he's kind of the guy that's not. So that's that perspective. So it was pretty neat.
Yeah.
So episode or anything else in episode 9 that stood out to you? Okay, yeah.
I did have one other thing, and it's when the facts come to visit Claire in the hospital.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Oh man, honestly, when I heard this dialogue, I thought it was embarrassing. I finally realized that these guys, especially Neil, they talk like small children.
Yeah.
They just ramble on. They use simple run-on sentences. It's like a 5-year-old would talk. And like Neil's saying, and Carmy has strong shoulders, and he has strong arms, and he could hug you more. And and Claire kind of reflects that in her language to them. Like, I love you both so much, but you have to go. Like, she's talking to a little kid.
Yeah.
I mean, are these guys adults? Are they are they on the spectrum somehow?
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know how to interpret this these people,
Kind of infantile for sure.
Hmm.
And this scene kind of encapsulates for me too about Claire. What are we doing with Claire? Like Claire's just there. Like
Hmm.
there's no purpose for her in the season at all, other than just to be this thing that Carmi kind of pines over. I'm like, do
Yeah.
something, do something. Make it, call her, don't call her, move on with your life.
Right.
Carmi made the mistake. Carmi's the one that screwed up. He needs to be the one to reach out to Claire, and he's not doing it. Okay, move on. Like we
Right.
keep seeing Claire, but they're not doing anything with her. I kind of feel bad for the character because she's just
And
around.
how long has it been now? I don't know how.
I
I
mean,
mean,
we're
it's
talking
been
a
at
few
least a
months.
month.
It-
Yeah. So if it's a few months, I mean, she's going to meet somebody else. Why hasn't
yeah,
she already met somebody else?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
The episode Doors took place over the course of a month, and then outside of that, I don't know if we're talking days or weeks,
right.
but so it's been at least a month, maybe 2 months. But
Hmm.
it's just like, what are we doing with Claire? She's get the paycheck, as the actress, get the paycheck, great. But what are we
Hmm.
doing with the character? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They got to figure that out.
Yep. So episode
Mhm.
10 is the season finale entitled Forever. My favorite episode of the entire season. And I think for me, it's
Hmm.
because it's fan service to me as a person that loves food and kind of keeps up with that sort of thing.
And you
Um,
know all these guys probably,
oh my
or
gosh.
know who they are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The list of cameos by some big name chefs and restaurateurs just blew me away. Like I'm just
Hmm.
going to run through it all just real quick. So
Okay.
Thomas Keller, three Michelin stars at two different restaurants. He has 7 Michelin stars total. Plays himself as Carmi's mentor at the French Laundry. Grant Achatz, 3 Michelin star restaurant in Linny in Chicago. It's on my bucket list of restaurants to go to and my bucket list of people I want to meet. Kevin Bohm is co-owner of Boca Restaurant Group. He operates 22 restaurants in Chicago, LA, and New York City. James Beard Award winner in 2008 for Outstanding Restaurateur. Christina Tosi, owner and CEO of Milk Bar, 2-time James Beard Award winner. You probably know her if you ever watch MasterChef. She's one of the judges on MasterChef. That's where she kind of made her claim to fame. Anna Posey, pastry chef from the acclaimed restaurant Elsky in Chicago. Beautiful desserts, just works of art that she does. Rosio Sanchez, known as Denmark's queen of Mexican food, and runs 2 acclaimed Mexican restaurants in Copenhagen, but she's a Chicago native. Will Guidera, co-owner of 11 Madison Park and one of the producers of The Bear. Jeannie Kwan, her and her husband Tim Flores own and operate the first Filipino restaurant ever to win a Michelin star, Kasama, which was also featured in season 2 episode called Sunday. That's when Sid went on her kind of restaurant tour.
Hmm.
Kasama was featured there. Malcolm Livingston II is a former head pastry chef at Noma, which was featured heavily in this season of The Bear. Wiley Dufresne, best known for his restaurant WD50. He's a what they call molecular gastronomist. He just does some really cool things with food. It's just amazing. Does scientific experiments with them and makes things look like what they're not and taste what they're supposed to. It's weird. It's cool stuff.
Hmm.
Chef Curtis Duffy, who was on my podcast a few episodes ago, so go check that out. 2 Michelin starred chef and the actual co-owner of Ever in Chicago, and that's his restaurant that we're all sitting in. And what the funniest cameo I thought of this season and of this episode was a blink and you'll miss it cameo by Bradley Cooper,
I
who,
saw that.
yeah,
Yeah.
he played a chef named Adam Jones in the movie called Burnt. It was 2015.
Hmm.
It's at the 616 mark. If you missed it, go back and watch that episode and 616 pause it. You'll see Bradley Cooper's character, Adam Jones. Burnt, I did a review on that movie with a friend on my podcast, so check that out as well. But that was probably one of the worst movies ever about restaurants ever put to film. It's horrible. It's laughably, it's funny and it's not supposed to be. But I thought it was hilarious to have his picture on there as Adam Jones, a real deep cut that if you don't keep up with, or if you don't watch a lot of like movies about food or restaurants or anything like that, you're not going to know. And you're like, Bradley Cooper, what's all this about?
It's an
Uh,
Easter egg, right?
it's a little Easter egg for people
Hmm.
for people like me that love this stuff.
Right.
I let out an audible gasp when I saw that. I was like, oh, I was like, Bradley Cooper, Adam Jones, and it's like, and then I thought, wait, Burnt and the Bear take place in the same universe. So that got my mind reeling about, okay, that meant Carmy met up with Adam Jones at some point when they worked at Ever. What was that like? And yeah, so that was really fun. So, I kind of rattled off this list. Did you know any of these folks as you kind of saw them going through before the photo montage of them showing their names and everything?
Right.
Did you have an idea?
In that open, when Thomas Keller of the laundry was showing Carmy how to truss a chicken.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was. No, and honestly, I don't know who any of these people are. This is a big contrast between you and me. I didn't know who he was, but I looked him up, and because obviously he was another famous chef cameo. So I looked it up. But what kills me is these guys are chefs. How do they know how to act? How is he? Thomas Keller seemed like perfectly at home. Maybe he was just pretending he wasn't on the camera. He was just showing somebody how to truss a chicken. But yeah. I mean, it's like did they take acting classes or anything? Or
I want to say, here's my theory on that. I don't think any of them were acting. I think they were just given a topic and then just was told go.
Without a script.
Without a script, right?
Okay.
And I feel like Thomas Keller's scene was improv, I feel like. And those chef discussions at the table when they're talking about, my first dish, and when did I screwed up. I feel like because it didn't feel acted, it felt like they were just shooting the breeze. They were just telling their stories. So I that's my theory. I don't think any of them were given scripts. I think they were just told improv, and then the trained actors were just told to riff off of that, right? That's how I feel it was. Like the monologue that you were talking about with Thomas Keller showing Carmy how to truss a chicken. That can't be the first time, obviously. He showed a new chef that first day at the French Laundry how to truss a chicken, and and that's probably not the first time he's told that story, about the way that we nourish the people that we serve, but not only that, but we also nourish the farmers and all the local businesses that we source our food from. That's Thomas Keller in real life. He's not acting. That's the way he is, just very mentor like when people come through his restaurants. Everybody wants to work at the French Laundry. If you have any aspirations of becoming a professional chef, that's just one of those places you go to. He owns the other restaurant, I think it's Per Se in New York, the other Michelin star restaurant that he goes to or that he has, and people just want to work there and go there. So I feel like Thomas Keller is that way. I've never met the guy, but I feel like that's the way he is in real life. And then all those scenes where everybody's talking about their first dishes, and the guy said he got a haircut during service. I feel like he probably did get a haircut during service, and that's a true story. I feel like all of those are true stories, which is why this episode for me was my favorite, because it was just genuine. It was real, and it was just really cool to see all of these chefs in one room on a TV show. Like when is that ever going to happen? That's not going to happen. Right. So I thought it was really, really cool. And some things that kind of stood out for me in terms of the character development of Carmy. Carmy's mentors throughout this season that we've seen, Daniel Boulud, Thomas Keller, Rene Redzepi, and then, the fictional chef Terry, all of those were mentors that were positive, that had positive influences on him. If you remember when he was at Noma, all the flashback scenes of him at Noma are kind of looking around in awe and smiling, and Rene Redzepi kind of acknowledging him with a little head nod, and even the fictional chef Terry, 5 seconds more, chef, always 5 seconds more. She's firm, but she's positive, right? She's not sadistic. But it was his time with Joel McHale's character, which we now have a name, Chef David, that stuck. And I don't know how, it doesn't say, we don't know the timeline of how long he worked with Chef David, but that is what shaped Carmy, is this sadistic, break your spirit sadism of Chef David. And I'm kind of like, if Carmy were a real person, I want to ask him, why was it that chef made you the way you are, as opposed to these 4 other chefs that were the complete opposite of that, not shape you to be the way to be different, not to be like Chef David, but why weren't you like Chef Terry or Balut or Keller or Red Zeppi?
Hmm.
So I don't know. What are your thoughts on thinking about that?
It really messed him up mentally for sure, and we can see that later when they have the interaction. But I kind of liken it to a podcaster when you get a review on Apple Podcasts or in
Yeah,
iTunes and you
yeah.
get a 5-star review. You could have 100 5-star reviews, but yet somebody leaves a 1-star review. That's the one that jumps out at you.
Oh yeah,
And you think, man, maybe I should change you think maybe you should take that one person's advice, even though everybody else loves the show. It's all positive except for that one thing. I think it's just human nature. Um, but I don't know. I agree with you. Seeing all these chefs in one place, and I said the same thing. How many of these? Well, I'll look at it this way. You know all these people, or you know who they are.
hmm,
I had no idea, but I wonder if the average viewer really knows who these people are.
yeah. That's true.
I mean, you're in the food world. You're a foodie. You follow all this stuff.
Yeah,
But I started watching The Bear just because I just loved the whole plot line, and especially first, second season, the way people interact and everything. I know nothing about the food world, but I love the show. I think a lot of people would recognize, yeah, these are all, they must be pretty famous people. And I said the same thing as you. How much of that was really scripted, and how much of it was just just talk, like the cornbread ice cream, or like you said, getting a
yeah,
haircut during service. um, uh, Curb Your Enthusiasm does scenes like that. They don't have a script. They say, okay, just here's the bullet points, what's supposed to happen in the scene, go make it happen. And
yeah,
I guess that's what makes it seem real, rather than, like, if all these people with no acting experience had a script, it would seem very probably stiff.
yeah,
Like, one person's talking and, okay, now it's my line, now I say something, and it didn't seem like that at all.
yeah.
So
All felt very
uh
natural.
yeah, yeah.
I think the only person at the table that had a line was Luca, where he described, it's the first time I've ever
Hmm.
said hands on a dish that I made from beginning to end, and I watched that thing go out of the pass and to the table, and my heart was beating real fast. And then he finished the
Hmm.
story and goes, "What was your first dish like?" And then off to the races we went, right? And I think that's the
Yeah,
that's when I
that was
knew.
the
I
jumping
said
off point
that was
right
the
there.
jumping
Yeah.
off point. I said
Hmm.
I knew at that point the rest of those conversations were just riffing, because you get these chefs of this caliber, they're gonna have that that first dish moment in their mind, that
Hmm.
memory that they can pull from, like the cornbread ice cream one. I've heard that story in other interviews that Christina Tosi has done, so I
Mm.
knew that this was real. I knew that this was that they were sharing real stories about their lives, and you get to see a little bit of who they are, but. To what you were saying, that the average person that doesn't keep up with food in the way that other foodies do probably didn't understand, or didn't understand the significance of seeing all these people together. So this was really fan service for me. It was fan service
Mhm.
for foodies like me. It's like, like the Deadpool Wolverine movie that just came out. There were so many deep cuts in that unless you've watched the entire Fox catalog of Marvel movies, you're not going to understand, why is Jennifer Garner in there? Why is a
Mhm.
spoiler alert if you haven't watched Deadpool and Wolverine? Sorry about that. So why are all these cameos in here, and why do they matter? And why are people yelling and screaming in my theater? Right? I just like the Deadpool movies. I don't understand what all
Mhm.
this is going on. So it's just that fan service, and I think that's why this was my favorite episode, because it catered directly to me, and I loved it so much.
Yeah.
Um, a couple of funny scenes, or one funny scene, was when Luca was talking to Grant Achatz. So that's the when he was talking about the balloons and the lavender pillow and
He was kind of
needles, and
fanboying a little bit, right? Did
he
you
was
get that impression?
fanboying. Oh yeah, he was fanboying over Grant Achatz, because that would be me. I am Luca at that moment. So if
Okay.
I ever met Chef Achatz at Alinea, and I would be the same way, and I would just be like, oh my gosh, why did I say needles so much? So I felt Luca at that moment. So I thought that was really funny, especially when Chef Achatz was like, I gotta go. He just like
I
leaves.
got to get away from this conversation.
I got to get away from you. So
Mhm.
I thought that was
Mhm.
really, really hilarious. And then the callback to the Forks episode with Jess leading service, I thought was really nice.
Mhm.
It just brought back fond memories of that episode. In fact, I rewatched Forks after I watched this again because
Mm.
Forks is probably my favorite episode of TV ever. Aside from the bear, but just in TV in general, Forks was really good. And seeing Jess leading service again just was gave me, it was like a nice warm hug just to see that interaction again. And I
And
really
there
want
was
to
some
see.
interaction with her and Richie.
Yeah,
You called that earlier. There was a little bit of flirting going on there.
I really want to
We,
see them get together.
yeah, yeah.
Really want to see that. But one scene I really want to stick on for just a second is probably the scene where um, Carmy finally confronts Joel McHale's character of Chef David. This is
Mhm.
probably some of the best acting I've seen from Jeremy Allen White in these 3 seasons. Was that small interaction between him and Joel McHale, because this is a lot of pent up frustration and anger, because he feels like Chef David made me the way I am, and I hate myself for it. And
Mhm.
how could you do this to not just me but other chefs coming in through the business? And Chef David's like, it was Tuesday. It was just a Tuesday for me. Like, and he took
Mhm.
no responsibility for it. So Jeremy Allen White, just some great acting. You could see the emotion in his eyes, the tears welling up in his eyes, and you saw how nonchalantly and laissez-faire that Chef David, Joel McHale's character, took it. Especially when he said, "Dude, you need to unclutch your pearls." I wanted to
Mhm.
punch him right in the throat. I was just
Mhm.
like, my God, man, you are awful. What did you think of that episode? Or
I
I mean, that
was
scene.
I was very impressed with the acting. Yes, especially Carmy. And I always think of it from a mechanical standpoint. How many times did they have to play that scene or redo that scene? And is he able to cry on command like that every time? Um,
Yeah,
I don't know. That would have been a quite an assignment. But yeah, and David is like, "You're welcome." You
yeah,
know, I did this. Yeah, you came in a good chef, you left an excellent chef. And I got to play a little bit devil's advocate. Yeah, he's an abusive asshole, but is some of that true? I mean, he really did make Carmy a better chef, right?
yeah,
It's kind of thinking about like a military analogy. It's like the drill instructor, you know, constantly yelling at you, but when you get out of boot camp, you're ready. You're ready to
yeah.
go. And there, but that confrontation clearly made Carmy's mental health worse than it was prior to their confrontation, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a very much an end justifies the means kind of
Hmm.
thing. And it's funny you mentioned the military and kind of the drill instructor. There's a reason why the positions in a professional restaurant, they call it a brigade. So the French brigade kind of thing. It very
Hmm.
much emulates a chain of command militaristic attitude. At least in the back in the day of those professional chefs, there was very much that Chef David kind of, I'm going to break your spirit so that I can tear you down and rebuild you and mold you to be like me.
Mm.
Because this is my food. This is you are representing me when you make these dishes, and you're not going to do a variation of it. You're not going to change the recipe of it. You're going to do it just like me. And to do it
Hmm.
just like me, I need to destroy who you are. And
Mm.
that's very much what older style kitchens. I don't know if you ever watch Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay's TV
Oh,
show,
I've seen some
reality
of his
show.
shows,
Yeah,
yeah, where he yells at everybody.
he
Yeah.
yells at everybody, and it's kind of played for reality TV and comedic effect. But
Yeah.
that's pretty true to life in the days of before, like the Me Too movement, and before people really took seriously abusive and toxic workplace environments. I will say that restaurants aren't run like that anymore. It just isn't, because a lot of people's mental health suffered for that. Yes, you might be a great chef, but at what cost?
Hmm.
Would you rather be a good chef with your mentality and your mental health intact, or would you rather be a great chef that is just awful as a person, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that particular scene just was really gut wrenching to watch. It was almost like watching a son confronting their estranged father and saying, "You ruined my life. All these years, you basically been living rent free in my head throughout my entire life." And the dad just going, "Well, I don't know what
Hmm.
the big deal is. Be a man and man up and do
Yeah.
better," and just the not caring attitude of Joel McHale's character was great. And I like Joel McHale too, so he did a great job acting this scene out
Hmm.
because I've seen him in a
Oh
lot of
yeah, he was.
comedies. You know,
He was able to make that character very, very unlikable, which is
yeah,
good. And I thought it was good that they went around the table with all the other chefs telling their war stories and and having a good time. He was not part of that.
right,
And it's good that they didn't make him part of that. You don't want to make him any kind of likable at all. Like,
yeah,
and probably everyone in that room knows what he's like.
yeah,
So I wonder if he kind of feels like he doesn't really fit in because, you contrast his style with the opening scene from this episode with Thomas Keller and, showing Carmi with love how to do this. It's like night and day.
yeah.
And I'm glad to hear that the kitchens aren't run like that anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, there's still long, thankless hours. I mean, you're still looking at
Hmm.
16, 18-hour days. But I think largely that type of abuse is not tolerated anymore in today's kitchen. So
Hmm.
I think it's a much safer place if you're looking to become a chef or want to learn some culinary skills. I think if you can stand on your feet for that long and
Yeah.
be yelled at by customers maybe, but I think working in the kitchen there are going to be some times where you get yelled at, but not to the extent that we've seen and emulated in the Bears.
Right.
So
HR would be involved, I
oh
think,
yeah,
at this
oh yeah,
point.
yeah, they take it a lot more seriously now.
Hmm.
The after party housewarming party scene I thought was fun. When when and Chef Terry opens up the fridge at Sid's house, like all you got is frozen waffles and frozen pizza, but he throws some caviar and creme fraiche on that, and it's a whole nother thing. So it's
Hmm.
I thought that was a really fun episode to see everybody kind of let their hair down, which was immediately at the end of that brought back down to earth when you see Sid have her full on panic attack trying to
Yeah.
decide what she's going to do with that contract. And, um,
Yeah,
you know,
because she
I,
just talked to Adam again
yeah,
at the dinner. Yeah.
yeah. Like you got to tell me what you're going to do or I got to go look for somebody else. So now the,
Hmm.
the pressure is a little bit more on.
Yeah.
And, we were kind of kidding earlier saying, Sid, just take the job. But you kind of see now that how much this decision can impact the trajectory of her life. Like where does she want
Hmm.
to go? And she's stuck. She doesn't know what she wants to do. So what did you think about kind of the closing out of this episode with the after party? Anything stick out to you or anything else in this episode kind of stick out to you?
Yeah, the after party, yeah, it was fun. Everyone was there, including the facts. But then, yeah, with the panic attack, I feel so bad for Sid. And she did such a great job of what a panic attack is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I kind of liked the chat with Carmi and Chef Terry, as
Yeah.
they were
That was good.
outside. That was kind of a good way to sort of wrap that thing up. Um, I just, it's kind of, we leave this season not knowing about Sid and the job, not knowing how the review came out, even though we
Right.
know it's out now.
Right.
And I always wondered too, is who's running the place with Natalie being out having a baby?
Yeah.
She did a lot of stuff there, all the accounting
Oh yeah.
and all that stuff. Who's handling all that now?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It kind of the way it ended, it made me think overall, with season 3, disappointed, too much facts. Facts belong in a sitcom, not
Yeah.
in a serious top-notch show like this. And just too much time of Carmi just spending time in his own head, which I know that's a theme, that's a plot line. We gotta have that because that's part of the story. But I just think they dwelled on it too long.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on a lot of those points. It just this season felt like a lot of filler. There weren't any real standout episodes. Napkins was out up there. This one, episode 10, Forever for Me was a good one because of everything that happened and who was all in it. But I don't think it was a standout episode in the same way that Forks is a standout episode, right? Or that
Right.
Fishes was a standout episode.
Mhm.
So there's no signature season 3 episode that we can put our finger on and go, that's the one. So what predictions do you have for season 4? We see at the end of the episode, he gets the notification that the restaurant review is up and live.
Mhm.
We don't see it, obviously. So to be continued is flashed on the screen. What kind of predictions do you think you'll see for episode, or what do you hope to see maybe in season 4?
It's such a deliberate cliffhanger because I mean they even showed flashes of the review, and there are words like brilliant or words like disappointed, and
Yeah.
there's a balance between good and bad, so you really don't know if the review is it going to be good, is it going to be bad. um I wish I had some kind of an idea what to expect in season 4, but I don't know if they're going to react to the negativity that season 3 generated and change a little bit, go back to their roots of 1 and 2, or if they're just going to keep going on the same track, because it seems kind of like season 4 might be the last one.
Yeah, I have to think that season 4 is going to be the last one. Like we talked about earlier with Jeremy Allen White, Eben, and Io. Just they're doing other projects now. I mean, they're going to their names are huge now, and everybody wants to book them for stuff. So I mean, Evan's going to be the Thing in Fantastic Four. Io just did Inside Out 2. Jeremy Allen White was in Iron Claw. So a lot of prestige things are headed their way. So season 4, I got to say, is probably it. And since they filmed a lot of season 4 concurrently with season 3, they're not going to be able to look at season 3 and kind of course correct. They're in deep with season 4, I'm sure.
Right.
I'm thinking, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of a course correction we're going to get from some of the critical misses that season 3 has had. So, I'm in for the ride. I want to see how they land this plane in season 4. My predictions are, I think the Chicago Tribune review is going to be mixed, because if it was great, then that solves everybody's problems, right? Then they start making money, people come in
Happily ever after.
happily
Yeah.
ever after. We can't have that. So I think it's going to be mixed. I think it's going to be enough for the Bear to have another for Carmi to have another existential crisis of, why am I doing this? I hope, I would love to see actually Sid take the other job with Chef Adam Shapiro. That I think that creates another conflict there, because then you get a chance to introduce a new character to take her place at the Bear. And then I don't know what kind of relationship do you see with Carmi and Sid if she takes another job? Does Carmi feel betrayed? Does Sid take off on her own success and leave Carmi behind? I mean, it opens up a whole nother avenue of conflict and drama if they're and two different plot lines, right, that we can see. How far does Donna make it back into the good graces of the family before she drives a car into a house again? Those kinds of things. So I hope we do see some of that. I want to see how Richie and Carmi reconcile. I want to see Richie, start dating Jess. I want to see something happen with Claire, either do something, don't do something. I don't know. So we'll see how it goes. I have a lot of hope. I still like the Bear, but critically for me, it wasn't season 2. It wasn't season 1. A little bit let down, especially in the back half of this season. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. It seems to me like seasons 1 and 2 earned the show a Michelin star, and now they're having trouble keeping it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. They earned some Michelin stars in season 1 and 2, but I don't know if they retained it for season 3, and
Right.
they'll have to fight back to get it again. So, Scott, I think we did it. I think we covered all 10
We did it.
episodes. And any final words on the Bear that you wanted to share?
Any idea when season 4 is? They haven't probably put a date on that yet, but it's
No,
not going to be
but-
for a while, right?
Yeah, if I had to guess, they're probably going to follow their release schedule like they have for these 3 seasons and release it in June. I'm guessing it's going to be June in 25.
Okay. All right.
So
I'm looking forward to that. I mean, obviously, I will definitely watch all of season 4. Maybe just before it comes out, I might watch 1, 2, and 3 again, just to get kind of
Yeah.
back in the mood,
Yeah.
I like to do that when there's a show that I really love. I'll watch all the old ones before the new one comes out, just so you're in the same place and remember everything that happened and all that.
Yeah. Where
So I'm
everybody
looking
was.
I'm looking forward to it, and it's exciting to see what'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Scott, it was a joy and an honor to co-host with you to cover the Bear. I had a lot of fun doing it. Where can
Mhm.
people find you online, and what do you have coming up? Any good stories that people need to be on the lookout for your podcast?
Man, I've got so many things in the pipeline. My show's called What Was That Like? And each episode I talk with a regular person who's been through something extremely unusual. And they talk about a plane crash or a mass shooting or a grizzly bear attack, and we have fun stories sometimes as well. But yeah, I've got in September, 3 episodes in a row, all firsthand stories of 9/11,
Oh, wow.
people that were there. The first one is a resident who she was actually at work in New Jersey, but her office had a perfect view of the New York skyline, and so she saw it happen. But her concern was her husband was still at home, and they live a block from the Twin Towers.
Wow.
So that's her story. Second one is with a man who was a firefighter for 18 years. And at the time of 9/11, he was working in Mayor Giuliani's office for emergency response. So he was one of the people that were in charge that day of the response. And he was hanging on to a center column in the Marriott Hotel when the second tower came down, and he just was
Wow.
waiting any minute to be crushed. And then the third one is a man who was an EMT, worked for a private ambulance company, and the stuff that he saw that day. So that's all of September, and I've got lots and lots of other ones, and I've got 180 past episodes that people can binge. So you can get all of that. It's called What Was That Like? It's on any podcast app, including Spotify, or just go to the website, whatwasthatlike.com.
Wow. Catch those stories. That sounds
Mhm.
exciting. And also, just a reminder, don't forget to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera at each content on all the social medias, Facebook, TikTok for now, Twitter, and yeah, I think that's it. I don't know. I ran out of social media profiles. I don't remember which ones. I've just got so many going on. And make sure to like, follow, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice and on YouTube at Eat Your Content. Scott, again, thank you so much. And I appreciate your time and your willingness to cover something that, you don't normally cover. And I appreciate you coming on the show and doing that with me.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite, and it was a lot of fun.